All right, Magic Makers. A few weeks ago, I did a podcast all about intermittent fasting. And if you have not listened to that and you're really curious about intermittent fasting, I go into greater detail about intermittent fasting, the different types of intermittent fasting, the good, the bad, the ugly. Today, I am answering questions that I got from said podcast. And so I'm doing more about questions than, getting into the nitty gritty. So if you want to go back to that podcast, I will drop a link here in the show notes. But, just a quick recap. Intermittent fasting is when you have what's called time restricted eating. You tell yourself that you are going to stop eating. We have a eating window and we have a fasting window is, how it boils down. And, that window can vary depending on the different styles of intermittent fasting that you might choose. The second thing we have is called time restricted eating. So that you're more eating in a line with the circadian rhythm, right? Circadian rhythm is like your sleep wake cycle. So when you get up in the morning, you you eat, and then about 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, you stop eating. And most people do this primarily for digestion, right? So if I'm making this up. I go to bed at 10 o'clock. My last meal is at 7 p.m. So that my body has about 3 hours to get into that digest mode so that when I go into rest mode, AKA sleeping, my body's not trying to help me go to sleep while trying to digest this big ass dinner that I just had, 20 minutes ago. So that is the ideal scenario. So, the questions that I got in from that episode, here are just the top questions that I got. And of course, if you have any more questions, do me a favor, just hit me up. I will definitely answer that. And if I get enough of them, I will do another podcast on intermittent fasting. So the first question I had is because, right, most of us here listening to this show are over 40, knocking on the door of menopause, or we're in the throes of menopause right now. And so the question I got is, will intermittent fasting mess with my hormones? Ah, so, and I'm gonna just tell you this from from the jump. You're going to hear me say it's nuanced, right? It depends, maybe, possibly, right? The thing is, I really wish in this time of life there was this black and white answer. I really wish. I want that black and white answer for you. I want that black and white answer for myself. Um, but will intermittent fasting mess with my hormones? And let's see, it really all depends. There's some of you out there who don't have a lot of hormonal changes going on. And if that's the case, great. This might be the game changer for you when it comes to weight loss. However, for some of us who are kind of like in the throes of it and our hormones are coming fast and furious at us and just we're all over the map here, skipping meals or fasting too long might cause a little bit more stress on our bodies and it might make things worse. So if you're already feeling out of whack, fasting might not be the best place to start. And I get it because I'm out there with you guys out in the social media world and I see, people are like, I put on this belly or I'm over 40 and packing on the pounds. What should I do? And I'd say 9 times out of 10, I see it too. Intermittent fasting, intermittent fasting, intermittent fasting. And it's like, whoa, like people don't even know your story. And the first thing they go is intermittent fasting. It worked for me. And I got to tell you, right? It's like some shit worked for me and don't work for my clients. And some things work for my clients and never worked for me. So it's like we all have to kind of find that dance. And I don't know, you want that silver bullet? Me too. I want that silver bullet just as badly as you do. But there's no silver bullet out there, right? There's a lot of like trial and error, and that's okay, right? At some point, we're going to stumble across something that works. I think I've said this to you guys before, but Bruce Lee, he martial artist, 70s and early 80s, and he, came to the US and he had like a very like hybrid, eclectic style of martial arts, and it was because he studied all the varying types of martial arts disciplines, and basically he said, I take what I need and leave the rest. And I think So many ladies get wrapped around the axle because they're trying to take it all in, take every bit of information in. And then when we try to sift it, it's too much. Like it's information overload. And so I want us to start thinking about, instead of just taking in all the information, what is the actions that we're trying to take? And that's what I really want people to be all about action. So the next question I got is, can intermittent fasting slow down my metabolism? And yeah, it can. This is how. If I am not eating enough food, and it's really easy that if I'm already under eating, all right, so I'm eating like 1,000 calories, 1,200 calories, and then I'm shoving it into this really small window. It's really easy for my body to just like start to freak the heck out. If I'm trying to be the champion, and typically most people fast between 12 and 16 hours, but if I'm like, if 12 is good and 16 is good, 18's better. You know, I'm going to try to do the 2 days in a row. Yeah. Right. And you're not feeling really great. Your body's going to flip into energy saving mode and basically slow everything down to conserve energy so that you have brain power, your heart beats, you can breathe, right? That's what's happening versus, I know we all think less is more, right? So if I have less food in my stomach, then yeah. But at the same time, if I'm still trying to do all the shit I do in my life, right? I'm still trying to, work. So that means I'm thinking, drive my kids around, still go to the gym 7 days a week. My body is just going to be like, girlfriend, I am just like literally like held together with some duct tape and some glue, like help me out. And so too little food, your body just gets stingy with the energy. And so here's where we have to kind of start first with that: nourish your body first, and then we'll start kind of making the tweaks. And so, a lot of times when I start working with clients, I just, probably the first 2 weeks that I'm working with you, it's like, well, what are you doing? Right. And really me understanding what you're doing versus you coming to me and me handing you like, do this instead. Because 9 times out of 10, the women who work with me, you're doing pretty good. We just need to make some slight tweaks to what you're doing. And that usually will get things moving in the right direction. But like anything else, like I know I'm the outlier when it comes to weight loss. Like I know that like what typically works for most people, my body's like, girl, ha ha ha, that seems lovely. And then I have to try something a little bit different. And so you might be that person too, and that's okay. It's frustrating as hell, but you might be that person too. Well, intermittent fasting cause muscle loss. Like, so just as we just talked about, if I am not eating enough food, absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. So that's why if you hear so many people like on the protein bandwagon, right? Like protein is really what is going to, one, keep us more satiated, right? Two, it is what the building blocks of muscle are. So if I am not eating enough protein in my eating window, my hard-earned muscle is going to disappear, right? Because if I'm not eating enough, it's muscle, my body will start to eat up on the muscle, right? And so again, one, muscle start eating on muscle. Two, if I'm over 35, I'm already fighting a losing battle because I'm losing 3 to 5% of my muscle for every decade. So I'm trying to like, stem the tide of what is happening uh biologically and trying to protect that muscle like a precious gem. And so, I mean, make sure you're getting that protein fix. And so that's 30 to 50 grams of protein. I know some of you guys just fell out of your chair on that one, but it's literally like, if you use protein powder, most protein powders have 18 grams of protein. So if I put in a scoop of protein powder in my shake and I put in 2/3 of a cup of liquid egg whites, boom, I'm almost at 50 grams of protein. If I were to do some Greek yogurt and some eggs, boom, I'm almost at 50 grams of protein. So it's like, initially it seems like a lot, but over time you like work to get creative, right? With the different protein sources that you add. Um, is intermittent fasting suitable for someone with a busy life? It really depends, right? This one is really hard for me to answer because busy is relative, right? Is busy stressful, or is busy like you are mom's Uber and you're trying to get kid one to soccer practice and kid two to ballet and kid three here while trying to cook dinner and, have a more than full-time job, right? That is, that's that level of like stress is on top of anything else that you might be doing to your body. So I would tell people, if that is what your life looks like, this might be already adding another thing for you to schedule into your day. And you might be juggling too many balls. And if you can't intermittent fast, is that the end of the world? Are you never going to lose weight? No. Here's the thing. Flexibility is your friend. You don't have to be tied to the clock to see results. And here's where we start to say, what can we be consistent with? And one of the big things that I, challenge my clients with is, instead of saying, I'm going to close the kitchen for the 12 to 16-hour window, I say, if we look at what our meals are made of, between our meals, from between meal one and meal two, how long before you get hungry again? Can I have a meal at 7 a.m.? And can I go until at least 10 or 11 before I get hungry again? Or am I getting hungry around 9? And if I'm getting hungry around 9, can I add something a little bit more to my meal so that I can make it last till 10 or 11, so that we have bigger gaps between our meals versus having these, I grew up in the world of 5 small meals every day, every 2 to 3 hours, I pretty much was eating by the clock. But when I started, how I was able to break my way of having these meals was, I stopped having my AM snack and my PM snack. And I was like, how can I make my, breakfast, my lunch, and my dinner be more uh bigger meals, so that I could go, 3, 4 hours in between eating food. And that way, if you do have that busy life, you're still finding a way to get a nice, sustainable meal, but at the same time, kind of play with like letting your food have an opportunity to rest and digest before we're throwing more food, before your stomach had a chance to run its full cycle. The best way I like to think about it is, I don't know if we've all worked a wash machine, right? Or the dishwasher. And, you think you got all the dishes, right? And then you start the dishwasher, and then all of a sudden you're like, ah, crap, there's 3 more things that can go in the dishwasher. I like to think of that as food, right? I've already eaten, and the dishwasher has already started. It's already through its cycle. My dishwasher takes 120 minutes. And so what if 100 minutes in, I'm like, oh, I forgot this. And then 60 minutes in, I'm like, oh, I forgot this, right? My dishwasher cycle has to stop, and then it has to start up again, right? So that's just how I think about nutrition. And so it's like, as it's already in the process of going, and now I'm going to add more food, and so then it has to go through the process again, so it never has a chance to fully go from beginning to end when I keep throwing in more food. All right, so this one, this is my jam. Can intermittent fasting help with belly fat? Here's the truth. Fasting is not a magic eraser. Neither is a cleanse or green juices or whatever the hell people are selling to you these days. There's no magic eraser when it comes to belly fat. Belly fat has a lot to do with inflammation, hormones, than shutting down the window. So one of the big ways for, you to get rid of the sleep, for you to get rid of the sleep, for you to start to lose the belly fat, is really focus in on sleep and stress, right? I think, I don't know, probably every other podcast I talk about sleep and stress, because those are the two things I know that if I got better sleep and I managed my stress, things would be a little bit easier for me. Food quality, right? A lot of the things when I work with women is like they eat a lot of, I'm going to call it healthy-ish shit. So it's the protein bars, it's the protein cookies, it's uh the green juices, the green juice powders, like, they market a whole shit ton of stuff to us. And a lot of it, yeah, is good. However, I'm not eating a lot of knife and fork meals. Now, before you guys come at me and be like, our food system is bankrupt, blah, blah, blah. I get that. However, I believe that supplements are supplements. Supplement what you're doing, not replacements. And so I'm a big believer of getting those green leafy vegetables. If you can afford it and it's available to you, yes, absolutely go organic. But I'm not going to go have you like have to take out a loan to go to the grocery store. I mean, nowadays it feels like that. But I want you to think about like, can I get the good quality food? I mean, nowadays, at the time of this recording, it's harvest. And so there's a lot of different great local vegetables that are coming into play. If you have access to a farmer's market, is just absolutely fabulous because, they're coming in 30 to 50 miles. So it's like, it is local produce and all that good stuff. But good quality food, I'm not knocking protein powder, right? I use protein powder, but I also it's one of my meals versus all of my meals. So that's the point that I'm trying to make. And then, what I've been going back and forth trying to find research, and most of the research shows that fasting is good for about 6 months, and then your body plateaus. And so here's where I'm like, if fasting is going to be kind of like your kind of way to stop eating, stop snacking and start to learn how to listen to your body and understand hunger cues, I'm all in. However, if it's not working for you, stop, right? It's like if it's not working, it's stop. If you find yourself feeling more ravenous because you're trying to hold out for that 12 or 16 hours, then let's not do it. Like focus in on how I talked about before, seeing how much time you can get in between your meals, right? How long can you go in between your meals? Because I know that when many of you wait until like you're absolutely ravenous and you will put anything that's not nailed down, you'll throw that shit in your mouth. And that's not good either, right? So we want to start to be able to like start to ask ourselves, like, what is our relationship with food? And if you're someone who does not have a good relationship with food, intermittent fasting is not for you, right? If you're someone who has come from, if you were any type of eating disorder, right? If you had any type of disordered eating, I was a disordered eater, right? I vilified food. I had a good food list. I had a bad food list. I, just had a really effed up relationship with food, and intermittent fasting just it wasn't for me, and that's okay. Um, and so I want you to think about, if I'm someone who has to have a medication that I take, first thing in the morning and requires me to have food in my stomach, then, it's not for you. If you're someone who has a BMI uh, below 19, this is not for you. Or you have diabetes, this is just not for you, and that's okay. Just, think about like skydiving. Some people love it, some people hate it, right? You just have to know that some things might not be good for you. Now here's where a lot of people ask me, because I'm a morning workout person, and I see it. This is like the number one question that I see on the socials when it comes to intermittent fasting: morning workouts. Now, back when I was doing fitness competitions, bodybuilders were like, literally, it was like, came down like the gospel, right? It was like written on stone, like fasted workout. You had to have your first cardio fasted. And when it comes to cardio, the jury's out. It's 50-50 when it comes to cardio. If you get if it, taps into your fat reserves, like, no, like, there's no real like answer to that. There's no real, it's 50-50, right? I keep looking for the research, and if anyone has seen something, holla, I'd love to see it. right? But for those of you guys who are, lifting and doing cardio, first thing in the morning, fasted, you're basically putting your body into low battery mode, right? And as any of us have had that like low battery, like you're on your phone and all of a sudden like the low battery alert pops up. Our body don't do low battery alert. It just like we just kind of like we don't feel as good. We're not able to lift as heavy, go as fast as we want. So for those of you guys who are early morning exercises, this is not for you, right? This is not for you. And, or maybe, if you go to the gym, say 3 or 4 days a week, the mornings that you go to the gym, you don't do intermittent fasting. And maybe you do intermittent fasting on the days that you don't go to the gym, because carbs and protein before your workout are your BFFs, right? The carb is like your phone charger, right? I'm as soon as I see that 20%, I'm like, oh, I gotta plug in my phone, right? So that's what keeps your energy level replenishing your glycogen stores, so that when I go to like ask it to like do a lift, it's giving me the energy to do that lift, right? And then when I have protein on board, it's the muscle repair crew. So like when I am lifting, I'm literally tearing apart my muscles. And so that way I have protein on board to start helping with the repair process. The best way I could think about it is like potholes, right? We've all been, how many of you have like driven through a pothole and you're just like, damn, right? That like, you're like, do I still have a tire kind of pothole? But we've also been out there when we've seen the crews like, fill in the holes as we're driving down the road. That's what protein is. Protein is filling the holes as we fill it. And so the so if I choose to not eat before I work out, right? So say I'm working out at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and my window does not open till 10 or 11. I am now missing my pre-workout and my post-workout. And so that window after workout, that's when your muscles are like wide open and saying, feed me. And if I'm just like, here, have some water and shut up, we're missing out. And especially again, we're over 40. We're fighting that tide of losing muscle. So fasting cardio, possibly, right? But fasted weight training, you're basically setting yourself up to get weaker and not stronger. And, we all know we need that muscle to one, help us boost our metabolism and burn that excess fat. So bottom line, if you want results, fuel up before you lift, right? Your muscles will thank you and you will start to see more muscle mass, um, so which leads me into the question, people are like, well, what breaks your fast? Well, here's the thing, right? Us ladies over 40, we have been like, so, I guess like we've been like, so, I'm trying to think of the word. It's so like indoctrinated that here are the rules for the diet. And if you follow the rules, you will get the results you want. Oh, let's be honest with each other. How many times do you follow the rules of the diet and you got shit? Right? It just like, snapped back on you like a mousetrap. So what if we just stopped following the rules? And what if we did what felt good for us? There's Dr. Amy Shaw. She's one of the big people out there touting fasting. And she calls it a dirty fast, right? And she's like, sometimes somewhere between 30 to 40 calories you might need to like get you going, right? Because some of us wake up hungry. And if I wake up hungry and then I'm going to try to go to the gym or I'm going to try to start my day, I am going to have a long bleeping day. But then you have some people who talk about a fat fast where you're blending MCT oil or butter into your coffee as a way there. Or, Dr. Jason Fung talks about having bone broth, right? So they're talking about having these like small calorie meals before you start your day. So, here's the thing, right? We all have this rule police in our head, but I wanted someone to point out the rule police. Like, who is going to be coming in my kitchen and being like, girl, you got 50 calories in there, so you broke your fast. You're not going to get any results. Like, there's no one does that. That's us. Because we told ourselves, if it's not this specific way, followed by this specific prescription, I'm screwed. I'm never going to lose my weight. right? But what if we just made it like not as hard and made it a little bit more freaking enjoyable, you know? For me, like I wake up in the morning and cream and coffee is my love language. Love language. That is what makes my day. I enjoy it. I sip it while I'm foam rolling before I start my workout, and I am like happy as a clam. And I will admit, did not eat. I only had coffee. I would have coffee or BCAAs before I started my workout. Over the last 6 months, I've been started to wake up and I started to feel hungry, right? Because I've been doing other shifts in my diet. I started to feel hungry. And I was like, I don't know about you, but when I'm hungry, I can't concentrate. Like all I can think about is I'm so freaking hungry. And the last thing I want to think about is like picking up the heavy weights, right? At that point, I just want to get through the workout. And we ain't about getting through the workout around here. We're about getting the gains. So here's where, you know, people are like, well, what would you eat before a workout? Now, again, it all depends on your stomach. So here's where we do a little trial and error. You know, dates. All right, they're like, 1 or 2 dates, and they're easy to chop up. So, like, if you want to like chop them up and put them in your bag, and like maybe have like a half a date and see how you feel on it, and it's easy to like go back to the locker room and grab it and have the other half a date. It's easy to eat on the drive to the gym, not messy. um Applesauce packets, those little packs that you give to your kids, they're fabulous, easy to like throw in your bag. They don't spoil. I literally, I don't refrigerate mine. I just keep them in the closet, and I just grab it and I eat it on my way to the gym. A half a banana, half a protein shake, chocolate milk, most fruits, maybe like a couple strawberries or a handful of raspberries, just like a little something to like get the get the engine going. Um, maybe, a bite or two of yogurt, like totally your call. But it's an experiment. Here's where I'm asking you to experiment. But yeah, intermittent fasting diets, they do have shown improvement on lowering cholesterol, overall cholesterol, triglycerides, blood sugar, insulin resistance, blood pressure. Absolutely. There's reasons why you use it. And for many people, why I started using intermittent fasting was, one, to break myself of eating every few hours. That was the first place I ate it. And the second thing I did was I was borderline insulin resistant. So it was my way of trying to, you know, desensitize my body to or resensitize my body to insulin. But right, there's no hard or fast rules out there. Like we have to kind of start to say, okay, is intermittent fasting working for my body? And I know that there's a Dr. Marie Haver out there. She's like intermittent fasting, but that worked for her. And like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, for some people they saw results in 6 months. And maybe you want to intermittent fasting for 6 months. Or one of the biggest things I also talk about is like the periodization of your nutrition, that we're not eating the same way throughout the year. Maybe every 90 days we mix things up. And so, we have a winter season, we have a spring season, we have a fall, and so forth. And maybe that's how we throw intermittent fasting in. So it always kind of keeps our bodies like guessing, like what's going to happen, what's going on, what's happening next. So the big takeaway I want you to hear is experiment. Is this working for your body? Like before you head into this, like know what your goals are. And if your goal is to lose 50 pounds, maybe we decide we'll try it for 60 days and see how it goes. 90 days, see how it goes. And then be willing to make some adjustments. Be open that maybe your intermittent fast looks different than someone else's intermittent fast. Be open that maybe it's adding more space between your meals versus having the hard open window and hard close window. Um, Asking, does it mesh with your lifestyle, right? If you're that person with the busy lifestyle that you're running your kids everywhere, you have a very busy life, you're very in a very stressed state, and thinking about when I'm opening my window, when I'm closing my window, is this breaking the fast, not breaking the fast? Like that might just be a little bit too much for you. And if I start with the how much time can I add more time between my meals, that might be the gateway to doing a different type of intermittent, working your way towards this 12, 16 hour intermittent fasting. But again, if you have any more questions here, I am wide open. I love answering your questions. I always want to make sure that you don't feel overwhelmed and confused. So, magic makers, enjoy the rest of your day. And again, if you have any questions, do me a favor. You know how to reach me. I'm all over the socials. K Jefferson Coach on Instagram. In my Fit Girl Magic Society, in my Fit Girl Magic Facebook group. I'm always in there answering questions. So enjoy the rest of the day. And also, like, I will link the previous episode about intermittent fasting in my show notes. All right, magic makers, enjoy the rest of your day. Nice talking with you.